There's no good bonus content in there.
I wanted all that tax information.
Bonus content. John and Noah talk about W8 bend forms.
I've been doing like super short cold opens like that, where I'll include one of the dumb things we say before recording, and that would be so funny if I just went through and just played the whole tax thing.
All right, let's do a clap sync.
All right,
here's your
ready?
cold open.
Hey, gals, guys, and otherwise, this is Jonathan O. Roselion.
And I'm Noah, also known as Polyphonic, and you're listening to Horns and Wings, the best podcast this side of the galaxy, where we talk about Saga, one issue at a time, issue by issue, page by page, sometimes panel by panel. Are you not gonna say anything and just see how far I can go this?
I want to see how long we can.
We can look at it. Sometimes we'll look at it word by word, letter by letter. If this was digital, we would look at it pixel by pixel. But what does it count as pixels if it's created digitally and then printed onto the page? No. Welcome to the Fart Radio Hour.
Hey, let's dive in.
All right, so what's this cover? Honestly, I had a hard time noticing the cover because the cover is side by side with the splash in my omnibus, and we'll get to the splash in a minute. But let me suffice to say, your eye is not drawn to the cover in that side by side page.
So just to reestablish with everyone listening, this is my first issue. That I'm officially in single issue. So this is where I think they were maybe halfway into this arc, or maybe 2 issues into this arc, once I had finally finished like the first 3 volumes and was very impatient and went and picked up the first or started picking them out single issue, and it is so I will say it makes the reveal of that splash page so much nicer, so much more effective of getting that, just opening it and it being right in your goddamn face. But this single issue, I at first glance didn't realize it was Saga when I was looking for this issue, because we get a woman, who is wearing like a green jumpsuit. It's very green. It's very Green Ranger from Power Rangers. It's all green and gold.
I was thinking it's very kind of Dragon Ball Z.
That too. The shoulder pads are very Dragon Ball Z. Yeah, the
shoulder pads, large, very large shoulder pads.
Very large gold shoulder pads. And it's a woman with like a big white hair. She's standing on a stage that's covered in fog, and the Saga logo. I don't know if this is in the omnibus, but on the physical copy, the Saga logo is like marquee lights. It's spelled out with marquee lights. It's fantastic.
Oh, that's neat. I forgot about that, or didn't know it.
Yeah. So this is I haven't narrowed down to one of those two. But yeah, no, this took me by surprise. Again, Saga surprising us. And another like very a lot of solid black on this one. Yeah. That's 2 in a row.
Well, and this one actually is a lot kind of less abstract than a lot of the others, with the actual kind of stage and the smoke and the lighting rig in the background. Like it looks very present. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very cool. I love it. And then we open the page. So when I just somehow, every time I read through this again, this does not stick in my mind. I might be repressing it, but the exact actions that took place was I dig through my closet. I find my pile of sagas. This one's in a nice bag and board. I got one of those nice bags that like are self-sealing. I so satisfyingly open it up in the back, pull out the issue. Oh, I forgot. This is a cool cover. I like this one a lot. Let's open the fucking what? Why? I had an actual audible physical reaction to this. All audible, physical, just all reactions I could have to this. It's a vagina giving birth, very big. But it's a robot coming out.
And a lot of blue coming out too.
Yeah. A lot of blue.
There's
a
like
butthole in there.
Like immensely close up.
This is
actually, and you can see like a doctor's hand in the corner, and I just put my hand over, and it's pretty close to like the size of my hand.
Yeah, no, this is life size, first person, and it is a baby robot being born, with the dialogue. One last push.
I also just love that the robot's screen is like what's it called? There's like a word for it, where it has all of the colors,
screen.
like the color test screen. Yeah.
Right.
I'm looking this up.
Which I feel like we saw that. Did we see that on Prince Robot's screen at some point? Oh, it's on the cover. That one cover. He has the test screen, the gray cover.
It's a PAL test pattern.
12.
That's what it is.
There we go.
But yeah. It's the test pattern of a TV, which is amazing.
Yeah. It's very cool.
And then we kind of tag team that splash. Do you want to take this scene or should I?
I could take it.
Alrighty.
This is a short one. I'll stop before the montage.
Okay.
So we get the doctor or the what's the midwife?
Yeah.
That's what that's called.
Yeah.
Whoever it might be, is holding up a newborn baby. The umbilical cord still attached. Says, "Congratulations, Princess Robot, you have a son." And we pull back in the familiar Princess Robot's room, and they snip off the umbilical cord, and they confirm has 10 fingers, 10 toes. It's a perfectly healthy baby, and the alligator nurse hands the baby over to Princess Robot and says, "It's my honor to introduce Prince Robot 4. And interestingly, adding more depth to however the fuck this works, the Princess Robot says, "I beg your fucking pardon. This child won't inherit that title until his father is dead." And the doctor apologizes for the nurse, saying that just because the husband is still missing in action doesn't mean that anyone in the kingdom has given up on him. And then we get a bit of a close up to the mobile over the crib that has all it's very fancy. It's very opening of Game of Thrones.
Yes. Yeah.
Title sequence. And we see the solar system, I'm assuming, and all the planets. And the voiceover starts to kick in with a very familiar from the first issue. "This is the story of two worlds forever at war, a planet called Landfall and a moon called Wreath." And then it adds, "But it's also the story of a distant land that circled them both." And we see a smaller, tiny little planet. And I'll leave off there, and we'll get into the rest in a bit. But we have 2 birthdays.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We do have 2 birthdays. It is at the time we're
how Noah's
recording
spending
this.
his birthday.
Yeah, at the time we're recording this, I'm spending my birthday looking at robots pushing heads out of their vaginas.
Yeah, and I got you a present, which I am saving for the end of the podcast.
Okay.
Because I want you to go and play with it as soon as it's done. And don't mind typing. Amazon.com.
Next hour delivery. The one of my favorite
Dildos Vancouver.
One of my favorite little details about this scene. Can you see how they snipped the umbilical cord?
Yes, and it made me very, very happy. How did they snip the umbilical cord, Noah?
With wire cutters. And it's like a little
Massive.
wire.
It's massive wire cutters on this. It's a fucking wire as an umbilical cord. One of my favorite details.
It's just these are just the little visual gags that you really get on a close read through.
Yeah. Yeah, I love. I feel like the robots are in the lead in terms of just fucking amazing character details,
It's
just species attributes.
So yeah. Well, and even like the fact that Prince Robot's face shows like what looks like a planet exploding when she says my baby. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful scene. I think we can all agree the beauty of this scene overall. That fucking I love. This is peak Saga opening splash.
Yeah.
I love it to death. And we also get, so that's I think that's very interesting about the inheriting titles.
Yep. Yeah.
I think that explains a little bit more.
Does it?
And in terms of like just because we've tried to figure out how the numbering works before, if it's generations or if it's whatever. So that's starting to add up. And yeah, also one other thing I like is that the planet landfall, the representation of landfall
has the wings.
The landmass on it looks like a dragon.
Yeah.
And we've seen that just about everything on landfall has wings. So I would love a great reveal at some point of just a big fucking dragon from landfall.
That would be amazing.
And we have seen a dragon on the battlefield, but I'm not sure if that one even had wings.
Yeah, I don't think remember. It did.
But yeah.
Cool. Yeah. I think it's interesting because it's really neat kind of reading this as an omnibus too, because it feels like a very clear kind of, it feels like those first three arcs kind of tied together, and then we saw at the end with the time jump forward, and now we're kind of opening with a bunch of narration to situate us again. Like I think it's very much kind of the start of a new chapter in a way that it hasn't been going from arc to arc before.
Yeah, and I feel like this is the first arc to really do it. Well, no, in volume 2, we get their sort of more elegant way of bringing us up to speed was in the first issue. It starts with Marco being shown the like Marco
Polo.
he's become a corporation since last we saw him. That's a big aspect of this time jump. But it's him as a kid seeing the memories of the battle, and that's sort of how we're reminded of like the history of like the
that's
conflict.
True, yeah.
Because that's the big thing they always establish with these recaps is Landfall versus Wreath, and then whatever else they want to throw in. But I will point out, they actually, for issue 25, which is the beginning of volume 5, they do a very in-depth, or like a pretty in-depth, like multi-page sort of recap summary thing. Even throughout the book, it's like reintroducing characters and stuff through the voiceover. That I would love to bring on someone new.
Yeah.
Who has never read Saga.
Yeah.
And just see what the fuck they think about it, just coming in totally cold, because that always, I'm always surprised to see that in this book of these recaps. I understand when it's a recap for the sake of the people who have been waiting since the last trade or whatever, but when it's that in depth, I'm always like, who's really jumping on at this point? It's just starting here. That's fucking impressive.
All right, should we move on to this summary that we're getting?
Yes, please.
So here we kind of get a montage with a bunch of expositional dialogue or expositional narration. We learn that the Robot Kingdom is a dwarf planet. Shout out to dwarf planets, Pluto and Ceres. Which they say it's too big to be considered a moon and too small to be considered a planet. And then they say it picked, like all middle children, it picked its sides carefully. We see a robot king blasting a hole with a hand blaster, or robot noble, I suppose, of some variety, blasting a hole with a hand blaster through a horned what seems to be an emissary or lord or king of some kind. And then we cut to a ball where I think it's Special Agent Gale dancing with Princess Robot. And it says
we saw this ball.
Yeah. It says that the robots have prospered for picking the side. Then we cut to that ball in black and white on a TV screen. And we see that at least some of them did. And we see what appears to be a robot janitor being called in to clean up the birth. And the narration says that not everyone was lucky enough to win the nobility lottery. Some of us are commoners. And it ends with this janitor with a skull on his face, on his TV screen. And that's how we meet Dango. I am so fired up about Dango.
Yeah, he's introduced. I mean, if we ever see Dango again, it's very clearly a character introduction. To the point that they first say his name.
Yeah,
like someone calls him over. So yeah, obviously he's at least somewhat important.
And so I feel as though I didn't describe it well enough. So Dango's TV is like one of those old TVs with the like click dials to change the channel, and it's in black and white, and it's
almost like a CRT or something.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Very, very old and like inexpensive.
And it is
TV.
It is so beautiful and such a I remember reading this the first time, just one of these like click moments where it's like, oh yeah, I guess on the Robot Kingdom, people with older TV heads are the lower class.
Which also I feel like is something that we didn't express enough. The fact that those it's like flashbacks when we're talking about the Robot Kingdom.
Yeah.
And it is straight up medieval times.
Yes.
But with the robots.
In this flashback, we need to talk about these cows too.
Yes. The cattle have security cameras.
Yeah, like
long
CCTV cameras. Yeah.
Yep.
As their heads.
And now I want to see every animal that has this.
I want to see the entire populace of the planet.
But yeah, it's very like serfdom looking medieval times. And there's a guy out plowing the fields. And it looks very Macbeth, the scene where the nobleman is blasting through the horned nobleman, and that raises a lot of questions for me, because in my mind I was like, hey, I mean, I've brought it up before in the podcast of did someone create the robot race? Like, is that they're somehow tied into their origin? But also we're seeing them we're seeing them and the horns like both in sort of medieval garb, and it's almost implying a similar timeline to ours.
But the horns do tend to wear medieval garb generally.
That's very true, and yeah, it's hard to say.
And I love that it's hard to say.
Yeah, and it like, and it could also not, like, my thought process is like, is this not a flashback maybe?
Yeah.
But also the fact that Dango's wearing a contemporary janitor's uniform opposed to the guy in like the old hood and stockings and stuff, like plowing the fields, like it very much leads me to believe that this is I don't know. I feel like we saw out of the window of Princess Robot's room at some point, and it looked more Metropolis-y. But yeah, who the fuck knows what's going on? It's all great though.
Yeah, I
just figure it out eventually.
I just love the robots because I think that they work best when you don't ask too many questions about them.
Yeah.
But there's still this internal logic that works, like with the the different kinds of heads, and even the fact that Dango is the first robot that we've seen whose TVs are in black and white.
Yep. It's so fucking good. It's so good. I love it.
And then, as I throw to you, we get some HTN TM.
Okay, that threw me off a bit. So the narration continues, and our castles are made of air. And we see, again, if you forgot, toddler Hazel, the cutest damn little button in the world.
Oh my god, I'm dying at this.
Wearing like a blue dress and a green cape, and is jumping in like a, what do you call them, a moon bounce?
A bouncy castle.
It is a bouncy castle, and so castles made of air, etc. She establishes that they are at Gardania, which was referenced before. We'll get into that. And we see that Marco is watching her bounce, and Marco has blonde hair now, bleached blonde hair, and his face is covered in bandages. It's very Kojima. And we see someone talking in blue from off panel, and we meet a very nice bat lady. I think she's purple and she has the ears and nose of a bat. And she continues to greet Marco in blue, and he says, "It's nice to donkey me." And she explains that she's been listening to those Learn to Speak Blue tapes in the car. And he says that, it's hard to master, and he says, well, I'm cheating, and holds up his translation ring, and realizes very quickly that it sounds like he's just cheating on his wife. He explains that it's a translation ring, and he's very happily married to a soldier from Ruth, and tries to cover his own ass. And the purple bat lady points out that even though Gardania is neutral in the war, she supports the Horns, and she supports, quote, taking out as many of those winged bastards as you can, which Marco kind of ends the conversation there. And then she stops him and says that if he ever wants dance lessons for Hazel, then go check out her dance studio. If not, just to sort of expend some of her excess energy. And that's pretty much where we leave off. They watch Hazel. By the way, in the background this whole time, Hazel is jumping like a good 5 feet above the top of the castle. And it's fantastic.
And the scene ends with Marco saying, "Is it just me, or do kids today bounce way more than we ever did?" To which she says, "It's not just you."
Now, I actually have an issue with this because I bounced like fucking crazy as a kid.
Well, you're not in this universe, are you?
Fuck. Or are we?
Okay.
Here's a new theory I have, Noah.
No. Okay, no.
If you look at, hold on, really quick though, really quick. The second to last page in this scene, Noah, this is your birthday present. The second to last page in this scene, on the fourth panel, if you look in the background, you see the St. Louis Arch, Noah. It's all coming together. It actually does look like the St. Louis Arch, and I'm pretty pumped about that.
It looks like an arch. There's several arches. It looks like there's an aqueduct, and then some other arches.
Yeah, but that one looks about 660 feet high, which is the approximate height of the St. Louis Arch.
Again, it's kind of interesting to see a scene that's a little more just kind of like, I don't know, sitting around in a park with kids at a bouncy castle. Like, it's very, It feels very normal.
Mm-hmm. But also, this whole issue is me just saying "uh-oh" over and over.
Yeah.
And I think there is implied sexual tension.
It's just me saying "uh-oh" over and over.
Yep. But I think there is like an implied, or even like, attraction from the purple bat lady to Marco.
Yeah, she's definitely crushing on Marco. She's trying to slide into his DMs.
which of course DMs in this universe means no, what does DMs mean in this universe?
Direct messages.
Fuck. Good enough.
This spread is actually a great example of what we were talking about with the readability on the in-between, where on one side of the page and the other, we have two different scenes, two different backdrops, and I'll kind of use this to transition to the start of the next scene.
But there's something cool that we left out, and you didn't even notice.
Oh, what? Where?
No, what's the detail in the third panel on the second page of this scene? What's the detail here that's worth mentioning?
Third panel on the second page of this scene. Okay, first page
after the splash.
Second page, the one where he says, wait,
third panel, second page.
Yeah, the blue.
Oh no, that's fourth panel.
Oh, that there is somebody walking a pig on a leash.
Thank you, Noah. This is all I care about in this scene.
This is a train wreck of an episode.
Again, we got that delay. It's always fun. But no, this is I'm pumped about this. And also, thank you for fucking that up, because I didn't point out what the blue was, because we need to talk about that.
Oh yeah. Does it mean good morning?
It means good morning. It's nice donkey you.
Also, I need to tell you, I looked at 3 different pages before I figured out which one was the second page.
Jesus Christ. Can't blame that shit on the delay. That's the classic Noah delay that we always have to account for. All right, go ahead. Do your transition.
Well, I was just going to say, so in this new scene, we have... We'll get to what it is. We have a woman in a green jumpsuit fighting a 4-armed man in some kind of desert canyon. But there's all of these little color pickups where the jumpsuit's pants draw some of the same notes as Marco's coat. The dude with 4 arms is a never nude, and his jorts are the same color as the sky before. And even the kind of like peach, orangey peach of the landscape kind of goes with Marco's skin and his hair. So it's, again, very cohesive on both pages, even though it's 2 scenes.
Yeah, even like his the guy's hair matches the
bouncy castle
perfectly. The bouncy castle.
Yeah.
We need a definitive name for those things.
So now I can try to describe this scene.
Please do. Good luck.
We get some THN, Hazel saying, but we didn't travel all this way for ballet lessons. And then we see what appear to be 2 superheroes, maybe? One of them is a woman in thigh-high gold boots, and the woman from the cover. And the other is a never nude dude with 4 arms and 4 pecs and 4 nipples by the looks of things too. And she is shooting...
You're not going to describe what a never dude is for the 90% of our audience that hasn't watched Arrested Development?
There are dozens of us. Dozens. Okay, he's wearing shoes and socks and tight cut-off blue jeans. And then he also seems to be wearing some kind of a jetpack with a harness. And he's got the hair of what's his name? Johnny what's his name?
Appleseed.
Johnny Thunder? Is that his name? The show, kids show.
Johnny Bravo.
Johnny Bravo.
I was going to say, Johnny Thunder's hair is under a gorgeous hat.
Yeah, no, Johnny Bravo. He has Johnny Bravo.
We are really whittling down the amount of people who can really enjoy this episode, huh?
And they're fighting as the woman who we learn is named Zipless is accusing the person of taking trips without her, talking to strangers all night, and Hazel's narration explains that what we are seeing is the open circuit, and it is Alana beneath the wig. So then this couple seems to kind of, the Zipless and the never nude seem to make up and start kissing, and there's a full splash page of them embracing, and like little pink fireflies flying around them and they levitate in the air.
Dragonflies, yeah.
And Hazel's narration says some of these special effects are cool. Then we hear someone shouting from nowhere, heckling, saying, "You suck, this relationship is going nowhere." And we pan out to see a pretty empty theater, and this appears to be playing out on a stage like we saw when Marco watched the open circuit before. And then Zipless turns. Also, Zipless's voice is purple. It's worth acknowledging that. And looks at the person heckling and says, "You, the guy from Fang who heckles us every fucking night. That's because your sister will..." He says, "I have more chemistry with my sister." And Zipless says, "That's because your sister will fuck anyone with a bus fare." And then she kind of goes on a rant telling him to watch anything else or to shut up. Hey, I wonder what it's like to be in this kind of a situation. I don't relate to this at all. And then she's hit by a big energy blast, and a pirate lady flies in and says she caught the space madness. And should we keep going or call that a scene?
I think that's a good. We'll break this down a bit because it's pretty absurd. But I do want to point out this is sort of interesting. I don't know if this is a direct reference, but it's also the only reference I know of and could also find in reference to Zipless. Are you familiar with the phrase or the term Zipless?
No.
So there is a novel? Yes, a novel called Fear of Flying from 1973 by Erica Zhang.
Oh, I think I've heard of that.
And in it, she describes the zipless fuck. And the zipless fuck is just a sexual encounter between two total strangers with no emotional involvement or commitment or anything beyond just wanting to fuck. And Erica describes it as absolutely pure. It is the most absolutely pure thing in the world. The zipless fuck.
That sounds very Oswald Heist-esque.
Yeah, no, it is. I think it is a fantastic reference for this book to make. So yeah, that is Alana's character name on the open circuit. What else we got here? I enjoy this.
I think we just we got a sense of it, but I think we're seeing more that what we saw wasn't just one episode of the open circuit, that the open circuit seems to be daytime TV soap operas mixed with superheroes beating the shit out of each other. Which seems fucking awesome to me.
I also love that every time we see the open circuit, it's always arguing about
affairs or
arguing about relationships while battling each other and then falling for each other.
Yeah.
It's the same formula every time, but just in the most absurd fucking context imaginable.
And also we learn that it, much like a stage performance, if they want to, the actors can actually interact with the people in the audience, which I think is unique. Yeah, it's delightful and weird and just more strange Saga stuff. And also, it is so fun to see Fiona Staples designing superhero costumes.
Yeah. Someday, I'm sure we'll see it.
They feel, I was just going to say, they feel very like Masters of the Universe.
Oh, totally, yeah. No, every one of these could be an action figure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think also the thing that gave me the biggest laugh in this issue is when she says, "You, the guy from Fang who heckles us every fucking night," and then we cut to the guy in his bedroom just sitting on his bed with his weird helmet on, like pointing at himself saying, "Me?" And just that cut is so comedic and I fucking love it.
Yeah, we're definitely getting some kind of strange light comedy here.
Yeah, which again we pointed out last episode. It's something I appreciate about this is that the comedy so often is not like the absurdity of like, oh, we cut someone's dick off or whatever, like preacher type of absurdity. Like it's always just sincerely funny little moments, and I love it.
I also just think the entire concept of the open circuit is fucking hilarious. And I
want it to exist.
So much time for just the open circuit. Someday, maybe our in-between arcs this time, we can talk about the open circuit and how it relates to YouTube and people being able to comment in real time.
I was just about to say, if there's anything that reminds me of this, it is just, I've never watched any of the actual videos, just based on the thumbnails. Those fucking that weird corner of YouTube that like kids watch that's always like Spider-Man meets Ilsa from Frozen or whatever. And it's just like people in weird outfits, and I can't even imagine what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
But I feel like it is just this.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be fun.
This is also just something that I, like, this scene I relate to more. When I first started reading this, I was not a YouTube creator, and now I am. And let me just say, sometimes you do just want to yell at the people in the comments.
No, it's your birthday. Get it all out. This is your chance
I already
to
did.
You already took it out directly at the people. But yeah, that's a fun scene. And of course, we have the very obvious transition from the space pirate saying that she caught the space madness to we have Alana sitting backstage, and someone off panel says, "I will never stop cringing," and we realize it's just a gargoyle again. Fucking best
just
characters.
A literal gargoyle.
Just a literal gargoyle wearing a fucking headset. It's so good. And then this is fucking I love this transition here, but Alana says in purple, "You encouraged us," and then says, "Just a second." And we see her like tapping or pulling on something on her, like the throat of her costume, and then her dialogue is back to normal. "You encouraged us to respond to the audience more." The gargoyle says, "I told you to be aware of the fourth wall, not to punch a glory hole through it," which is fantastic. But pretty much this is Alana getting fired by the gargoyle. And then a woman comes out and says, if she's out of the circuit, then I quit. And it is a woman who is just made up entirely of plants. It's like she's wearing... man, I don't even know how to describe this. It's like she has this shroud of moss and flowers over top of her, and she is a visible face and almost this sort of hunched over posture, and she has her long twig-like hands and legs that are literally just sticks sticking out of it, and it's gorgeous, and I love this design. And we find out that this is Yuma, who has been referenced in this comic before.
And we've actually seen a picture of her before.
We have. It was just of her face, so this body is very surprising. And we established that she's the set designer, and she says, that Alana was recommended by Heist. The gargoyle says, "Stop name dropping your dead ex. It's desperate." So we remember that both Gardenia and Yuma were referenced by Heist in the lighthouse as his second wife or something like that.
Second ex-wife.
And it's the origin of his fear of artists, and we realize that she's the set designer, which is fantastic and cohesive. And then Alana points out that she has a baby at home, and that is the thing that saves her job from her. For now, it's the thing that saves her job, and that's pretty much the scene. And we go to a sort of establishing shot at the end of the scene, curiously, and we get some interesting world building from that establishing shot. But we'll cover that in a bit.
Yeah.
But this is Alana making a living, which has been referenced before, and is not going perfectly.
Yep. I love the way that they so subtly do the change in her voice, and the fact that you get the impression that she's wearing like one of those things in Mission Impossible 3
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, it's just, and I think it's a really kind of nuanced, subtle thing, is just changing the color of the text. I feel like a lot of people would be tempted to do like a different font or different weighting or things like that, but credit to Phonographics, just changing it to purple is all we know, and we're already kind of familiar with the visual language of text in a different color from seeing the blue, right?
Yeah, yeah. And shout out to the combination of Phonographics and Fiona Staples here. The fact that it is just by placing those balloons where they are near her, fiddling with something on her neck.
Yeah.
And we don't even see a device or anything. It's literally just her touching her throat, and you understand perfectly what's going on there.
It's such good visual storytelling.
Yeah. Which actually, yeah, I want to take a second to appreciate just the way this book does exposition. It's something we've referenced many times before, but I think especially with this time jump, I mean, there's literally a gag that I forgot to mention in the prior scene, or with the bouncy castle, where Hazel is doing the voiceover and says, "We'd been safely ensconced here for several months, and you know what? Forget it. You'll catch up."
Yeah.
That is, they're giving up on giving straightforward exposition,
Yeah.
and just letting you figure it out.
There was an exposition dump a little bit, and then they were like, nah, you'll catch up.
Yeah, it's like we got the essentials out of the way. I also appreciate that the recap at the beginning in that exposition, like, I love that, even though, like, it's obviously working as a semi recap for the series, but it's giving us a lot of new information, and it's just very satisfying as a fan. And the fact that they mirror the original exposition dump of the first issue with the two planets, so it's a nice little callback for fans and the people who are like paying attention. But I think one of the things for me that I really appreciate that is just done every single scene in this series, but it's when Yuma comes out and we get the reveal of Yuma, and then the next panel is the gargoyle saying, after Yuma says she'll quit, the gargoyle says, "Fine, set designers are cheap," and Alana says, "Yuma, don't do this." And in that, we know literally everything we need to know about Yuma.
Yeah.
And if you do need it to know anything else, then literally the next panel, the gargoyle says, "Stop name dropping your dead ex. It's desperate." So again, we know everything.
Yeah.
And it's so flawless, and it's so painless, and I don't know, I just remember like having to watch, because there are things, the reason I appreciate this so much, there are things that are ruined, absolutely ruined by exposition. Go watch the Last Airbender movie, and that movie.
Can I not?
No, I'm gonna have to insist on this. Go ahead and pause the recording. This is your birthday present. I just sent it to you on Amazon digitally. Go ahead and go watch that movie. It is there's literally, I remember sitting in the theater watching it and thinking, God damn, there's so much exposition in this. And there's literally a part in the movie where this little boy comes up to like Prince Zuko, who's like been abandoned, and like Prince Zuko's uncle is like, "Tell me, little boy, what do you know about Prince Zuko?" And then this random little boy is like, "Prince Zuko lost a battle for his father's honor." It's just like every single line of dialogue in that film is just exposition, and it can be so exhausting. So I think that's something that people probably take for granted with this series that is done so effortlessly.
Yeah.
Is it just every scene is always exposition, even if it's like exposing more about the characters or whatever, like everything is exposition in a way, and it is so I love that the one time it happens, obviously in this, they call attention to it, and it's just like, you know what, I'm just gonna shut up now and you can figure it out.
That actually reminds me of, there's actually this whole great quote by Kurt Vonnegut that actually just kind of makes a lot of these things, actually. I'm sorry, I just pulled it up and I'm reading these 8 basics of creative writing, and all of these apply perfectly to Saga. But the one that I think is really, really good is every sentence must do one of 2 things: reveal character or advance the action.
Yeah.
And I think Saga does that a lot.
Yep. Yeah, I think someone who's really obsessive about that is Shane Black, the director of like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and writer of Lethal Weapon and stuff. He is I've heard him talk about just the point of a scene and how many things he's trying to juggle, and I think that's how I always end up thinking about it now, is in increments of scenes of what that scene has accomplished and what has changed from the beginning of that scene to the end of that scene, and whose perspective has shifted or whose do we understand, and just like that idea of every scene has a specific goal and purpose.
Yeah.
And I think Saga is nothing but that. Like every scene is just propelling the characters and the plot forward so much.
And I think I think another thing that often doesn't get talked about in this stuff is propelling the world, because I think Saga does a really good job of propelling the world as it's propelling these characters. Like, it doesn't, I mean, every now and then, like at the start of this issue, we kind of got a bit of expositional dialogue explaining the world, but more often you're feeling and building this world through the characters. You're not kind of getting exposition that's like in kind of a little rectangular box. Gardenia, galactic coordinates 1.489, planet formerly ruled by X, and like, and I mean, I don't think that those are necessarily bad. I just read the first volume of Ascender, and it does that. And the story is really good, but I kind of feel like I don't need all of that exposition, and Saga is great at just telling you literally all that it usually tells you is about a planet is the name, and sometimes not even that, like on my beautifully named Moutania.
Yeah, and I think it's just one of those things that like what's gonna actually stick with you, because I know writers, as a writer, fucking love coming up with ridiculous names for places and filling in all those little details. But the fact that like the way Saga expresses this information, you will actually retain it because you associate it with an action. It is actually relevant to what's going on visually. Like if I read a caption box, like you just said, that has information dump when we are getting a POV shot, like, or like an establishing shot.
Yeah.
And it's like just not, it might be the most important shit in the world, but if I don't see it, like they straight up show robots, working the fields, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna have that to cling to in my head.
Yeah.
Like now I'm going to forever remember the dynamic of the robot kingdom. And yeah, I think it's way more effective in that way.
And I think even to speak to that, like, I don't remember Landfall and Wreath as Landfall and Wreath. I remember them as Winged Planet and Horned Planet.
Yeah, and this book is so good about just always giving us that visual information. And actually, you know what? I'm gonna break the cycle here. We'll repeat it at the end. But my question of the week is going to be: because I'm sincerely trying to think of a moment where it's been the case for me. Has there been a moment where you were sincerely lost, like unintentionally lost in this book? And by unintentional, I mean not the intention of the writer, because there are points where they'll like the beginning of the. Pretty much every time we cut to the open circuit, we are intentionally lost and it's intentionally confusing. But is there a moment where you're just like, oh, I straight up don't remember why these people are here, or why they're trying to do what they are doing, or who they're referencing,
or why they're important? Yeah. I so often I'll be reading things and someone will come and it'll be like a big like reveal. They'll show someone. I'll be like, wait, was that was his cousin?
Right.
From over there? No? And
so yeah. I it's something that I see all the time. Oh god, I just watched fucking Crimes of Grindelwald, and I have literally only I think I tweeted about like how I've been sincerely confused during 2 movies in my life, and it was seeing Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain when I was 15 and had no idea what the fuck was going on,
I did the exact same.
and watching Crimes of Grindelwald as a full-ass grown adult and trying so hard to follow that film and just having no idea what the fuck was going on. And I feel like I'm actually struggling to think of any situation unless it was like me taking, it might like maybe after one of the longer breaks or something in the comic series, like when I was following it in real time. But I can't really think of a moment where I was just out of it, and unintentionally so.
I think another thing that adds to that, I mean, we're stretching this point a little, but I think another thing that adds to that is the character design. Because I've been,
Yes.
as I told you off the podcast, I've been rereading Y the Last Man, which is still a phenomenal story. But there's a lot of points in it where I'm like, wait, who's that again?
Yeah.
Wait, that person is who? And I mean, part of that is also just like it's drawn in a more realistic style, and a lot of the people are drawn very similar.
Yeah.
But I think like just Fiona Staples' character design makes it so that, and even there's so many characters that are just a passing thing in a scene that you will remember if they came up again, because the character design is so perfect. Like I would probably remember if like basically anything on Sextillion came up again, I'd be like, oh, we totally saw that person on Sextillion, right? Because they're just so memorable.
Yeah, no, that's something that's also really interesting that we should get more into at some point. I'm sure we'll do like a big rundown of character designs in this. But like, yeah, I sincerely, reading Why the Last Man throughout the whole thing, fucking got his sister and his girlfriend confused so many times.
Yeah.
And it was just so hard to, I definitely feel that. But also, like, there are things, I just watched through the new Paul Rudd show on Netflix, Living With Yourself, and he plays 2 characters in it.
Yeah.
And it literally, the only difference they do, and it works perfectly, I was literally never confused throughout that show, is one has bangs and one has his hair up. And that is the only like difference between the two, and it works flawlessly. So it depends on what you draw attention to.
Also pretty decent watch if you're considering it.
Yeah, no, it's a nice, I like those, that and Russian Doll are those nice like 4 hours and you're done like watch throughs that I really appreciate, and there needs to be more of.
Yeah. So to get back to this, I want to talk about this last pull-out shot a little bit where we see a bit of this world.
Yes.
What does this world look like, John?
Well, it's this kind of just looks like a random like abandoned building in a way. This is probably the most Earth-like world we've seen or just like normal.
Yeah,
I don't even know. It's a nice mixture of, I mean, it's Gardania, so like the building is overgrown, and I don't know if that's because they're using an abandoned building or just because it's Gardania. But also I really appreciate, because we referenced the fact that the woman said she watches or she listens to tapes in her car, which is a very ATM reference for this comic. But then we get this reveal of like the cars just look like chariots. Like in the way that cars are originally like horseless wagons, they're just horseless chariots here. And then the other thing that sticks out to me that I love is that the massive dish that the open circuit is apparently broadcasting with, for the, I don't even know what you call that, the thing pointing out in the middle of the dish,
the antenna.
I guess that's still an antenna. Is just a big curling vine, like plant tendril, and it's a nice little touch.
I think it hints at almost post-apocalyptic, but not really with a lot of this stuff, or very kind of organic, because even the car seems to be covered in moss or rust of some variety. I think moss.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see because it's like sun is setting, which I appreciate, like that specific time of day establishing thing.
Well, and that's actually a great transition.
Yes.
Because we turn the page and we get similar color palette, sun is setting exterior of the rocket ship tree. And I think that that is a fantastic way of visually conveying that they are on the same planet, that they are in the same space.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, good point.
Especially because so often we kind of jump to establishing shots in another planet in Saga. I think they're not the exact same colors, but the sun has set a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
The palette is very similar, and you really get the sense that, okay, this is the same place, but a bit later in the day. I think that it does a really good job of conveying that.
Yes, agreed.
And so inside of the rocket ship tree, we see Clara reading by mushroom light and hear a and then and Frendo walks in, and Isabel says, Frendo, in case you forgot somehow, being the giant walrus cow. And Isabel says, so yeah, your pet just menstruated all over the living room. And Clara says she only bought it for the blubber, but then Hazel fell in love. But then Alana steps in her costume, but her wig has been taken off, though it looks like she still has hair extensions or something. Because the blonde is still going behind her, but her natural hair is longer. She steps in, asks for the hot water to be fixed, but Clara says the repair witch said she'd need another 900 for a new part. So Alana kind of gets upset and updated on the goings-on. Hears that Hazel's asleep, and then Clara says that Marco ran her ragged at the playground, and we get a close-up of Alana's face, kind of angry, saying, he what? And then we cut to Marco saying, can we please fight about this in the morning? And they kind of have this argument where Alana says that she doesn't want her daughter to be out and about where she could be seen. Marco says, you're publicly broadcasting yourself to the universe. And Marco also says that he wants Hazel to have a life, and he wants to be able to raise her and have her do normal things. And then just as the fight is escalating, we get a fucking adorable little Hazel holding her little stuffed doll saying, "Mommy, you mad?" And then that kind of breaks up the fight. They both apologize, and Hazel says she wants skish, and which Margot says a squish. Hugging, they're gonna hug Hazel with hug each other with Hazel in the middle. They say, I love you more. Marco says we're gonna be all right. Things are getting nice. And then we turn the page and get the most goddamn devastating fucking narration of the fucking series. Oh, this fucking page. They are hugging Hazel. It is adorable. Hazel is saying skish. And above hand, we get Hazel's narration that says, "This is the story of how my parents split up." I'm done. I don't want to read this comic anymore.
I don't like it.
It's just, yeah. What a fucking, and this is the opening and closing splashes of this show everything that Saga can be.
Yeah, 100%.
What a bombshell to drop at the beginning of a new arc.
Which I will say as a married person, there are a few higher stakes for me than breaking up. And like we've already seen like the whole Bat Lady thing that already made me nervous. And then we also saw fucking Alana kissing a dude during the play thing, the open circuit thing, and it's just all a bunch of uh-ohs, and I don't like them.
And I think the stakes of breaking up are high, and the stakes of this couple breaking up are so high because you have seen the chemistry they have together. You have seen them put life and limb out for each other, and now there seems to be this great kind of tragic irony in this scene where, like, we've watched them chased through space and fighting people off and pushing each other off lighthouses and stuff. And then the issue where it says this is the story of how they broke out is just domestic life.
Yeah.
Basically, right? Like, it's just Alana's having trouble at her job, Marco's meeting another mom at the park, like...
Yeah, it is so fucking human. Also, just the fact that what's preceding that last splash is, I think, probably the most, like, beautifully human, like, scene that we've gotten in possibly in this series so far, of just, like, a very real argument, and then the child coming in,
and an argument where they're both right.
Yeah,
like an argument where that you can really empathize with both sides of it.
Yeah, and it's not one of those bullshit like, oh, why is this person being stupid? Like, yeah, it is a sincerely valid argument that they should be having as a couple, because that's how a lot of couples get through things is arguing, but like without making it personal. And then the fucking so touching and adorable and human the squish moment that I absolutely love. And so they just melted my heart. They melted my cold heart and then ripped it in half.
Yeah, and
I hate them for it. But I will say also, additionally, I had just as visceral a reaction as I did from the opening splash, as I did with seeing Friendo in the ship. I was just as blown away, and just like I went through all the same emotions, but slightly more positive.
Whereas like I forgot that had happened.
I sincerely forgot that Friendo was on this ship, and it was just such a fucking treat.
I just love. I want to talk about the set design in this scene, because it's so compelling, because it looks like the rocket ship tree like we've seen it, but it's highlighting things that make it feel very kind of like suburban domestic home, right? Like you've got the grandmother reading a book in a chair with a blanket over it. You've got this kitchen with the kind of tile floor and the oven and the lights. Like it's so interesting to see how the rocket ship tree is drawn differently, where in this scene it's drawn to reflect this domestic life that we're being introduced to in this issue, and this domestic life that presumably they've been living somewhat of an uneventful domestic life for a while, because Hazel has grown up and we haven't really... Maybe there's a whole wild adventure in there that we're missing, but I think the implication is that it was pretty boring for a year or two.
Yeah. Also, I just realized you can literally, this whole issue, like, save for maybe the montage of, like, the exposition montage, this whole issue, if you just replaced every character with a human being and replaced, like, the settings...
Yeah.
then this would just be like, there's nothing sci-fi about it. Like there's nothing extraordinary or fantastical about it. It's a woman giving birth, a janitor doing his job, and a kid in a bouncy house, and a woman acting on TV, and then backstage being upset about her performance, and then just an argument in their home that happens to have a walrus in it. and it is still so fucking engaging, and that is something that I love so much about this book. It's like fucking it's actually the embodiment of that whole thing that Brian K. Vaughan said, where it's just like I said it in a sci-fi world to make it more interesting, just to talk about like family drama and stuff. This is just the pinnacle of that, where this is just pure family drama and very effective at that. And it just happens to be with a panel that, like, a third or fourth from the last panel is or page is a severed ghost with intestines hanging out, saying that a walrus menstruated all over the living room. But no, it's so fucking good.
It's yeah. I think it's really interesting to see kind of how we started to see this in the last arc, and we're seeing it again here. How they are framing an arc with the first issue and giving you something to read on, because I mean, in the last one, it was kind of framed with like finding out that they were there, right?
Yeah.
And then this is framed with the kind of looming shadow of this is how my parents split up. That's gonna like hang over you regardless, and that's what's gonna make you want to figure out like, wait, this can't be right. They can't break up. There must be something wrong. Like I remember reading through this arc. It's like, which is super compelling, like you said, in a sci-fi story, that like what you're really worried about after reading this arc is, oh no, is Marco gonna hook up with the Batgirl?
Yeah. It is honestly like possibly the most invested I've been in this story and the outcomes of this story yet.
It is I agree. I remember when I got to this point and rereading it this time, I remember just this domestic life story I remember being so involved in.
Yeah. Also, and last thing I want to point out from this issue is just a great example of something that this book takes advantage of so much, of like the whole, I mentioned before, like the parallel of the Golden Gate Bridge. No one would give a fuck about it if someone hadn't painted it red. Like,
yeah,
it is the fact that they could have just said the repairman looked at the fridge or whatever, and it needed another part, but they specifically say the repair witch. Which is just brings me so much joy, and we'll probably never see that. But it's Saga, and they pay off so many goddamn things. We just saw the fucking ex-wife that was randomly mentioned and stuff, and we're on that planet now.
And I think it just makes so much sense within the world for there to be a repair witch, and you don't even need to see more.
Yep.
You just hear that and it resonates. You're like, oh yeah, that does make sense in Saga.
But also they still need to order parts. Which is fantastic. It's so good. Hey, I like this issue.
I really like this issue. I really, really like this issue. What was your favorite moment in this issue?
You know what? I'm gonna have to go with the opening splash. Like it is. I mean, it's like literally groundbreaking. Like it is so no one else could or would do this. And it's something that I just love about this so much. And again, it's shocking, but it's not violent and it's not sexual. It is just this aspect of life that no one wants to fucking talk about. But just like with the opening scene in the first issue, it's a thing. Just like with Am I Shitting? Like it is so real.
I think that's an interesting thing too, with kind of the parallel story starting, the fact that this story arc starts on someone giving birth, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just like the first one did.
Yeah, for sure. Let's start keeping an eye out for what the if there's one
framing
of those
device.
Yeah, if there's one of those like the upturned off or the flashbacks for this arc. We got a whole arc ahead of us. This is exciting. I always get rejuvenated.
Going into a new arc, I actually also get really excited at the end of an arc, and I really like the middle sections too.
Yeah. It's all fucking great. This is a good book. Do you have a favorite moment?
I think my favorite moment, just because this is one of those moments where I remember reading for the first time and it just resonated so hard and made so much sense to me, is just seeing Dingo. Seeing a lower class Robot Kingdom person with an old black and white TV as their head.
Yep.
I'm like, it's satisfying how aesthetically cohesive it is.
Boy, I hope we get more of that. So yeah, what about a song? Do you have a song for this one?
Oh God. Actually, give me a second. Do you have a song?
Yes, I do. So with all of the implications of adultery in this issue, I'm gonna go with the Pina Colada song. By whoever the fuck, which for anyone who hasn't listened to that full song, it's about a married man who sees an ad in a paper of a woman who's looking for someone who likes pina coladas and getting caught in the rain and not into yoga for some fucking reason and all this shit. And he goes in, he responds to the ad, and they meet at a place, and he realizes it's his wife who put the ad in the thing, and they just laugh over it, and it renews their relationship, and it's the most insane shit in the universe.
I'm gonna pick a really good kind of. It'll be a good back-to-back in the playlist. I'm gonna pick "Love Will Tear Us Apart" by Joy Division.
Oh, fuck. This is like fucking. I feel like I'm actively just like.
Trying to sabotage this playlist.
I mean, it was ruined literally from day one. So I feel like we have been so consistent in how thoroughly unlistenable this is, and I love it. Oh man! All right. Hey, let's listen to another great song. Here we go.
Yep.
You know what?
Joke never gets old.
You know what? That wasn't a very good song.
You change it, yeah.
Shit.
You threw a curveball. Do you think that makes the joke any better?
I think that song's not very good this whole time. I'm just now realizing. I don't know. It reminds me too much of just like 2010s like pop music, you know? And I've listened to all of it. I've listened to everyone. It's the worst. Is a reference for people who were around before this podcast started.
This is the story of how our podcast split up.
Hey, Noah. Okay.
I'm going to get mileage out of that joke.
I gave my question of the week, which was, is there a point where you were sincerely lost while reading this comic that was not apparently intended by the author? So let us know on that one. Do you have one, Noah?
Yeah, what do you think Yuma sounds like?
I've put it in there. That's one. All right. I did it.
Don't do it. I have a real question.
Okay. Fuck, I want to know what Yuma sounds like, though. Oh, what's the purple voice sound like, Noah? Shit, this is the perfect arc for it. All right. What's your actual question?
What do you think the comic means when it says this is how my parents split up?
Oh, well,
or what did you think it meant on your first read?
There we go.
What do you think it means now if it's your first read through? Like, that's a bombshell to drop.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, I think that it means that they're gonna split up.
Okay, first of all.
Can't wait for all those answers to come in. All right, that's our question of the week. Go answer that on the pinned tweet at Horns and Wings on Twitter, or the pinned comment on the YouTube version of this. It's youtube.com/Horns and Wings. Noah.
Yeah.
What's up with you? What's wrong with you, Noah?
Well, I have a shitty podcast partner. That's what's wrong with me.
Well, then what's my excuse? Wait, hold on. That, but turned around.
Actually, if you want to watch my stuff, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at WatchPolyphonic, or you can go to YouTube, where I started a series of videos about 5 artists that I think defined the decade, and a bunch of people got salty about it. So, yeah, those will be going up. Or you can go to Nebula, where I've got my Dark Side of the Moon series being released now too. People are less salty about that one for some reason.
Yeah, fucking unimaginable.
And what about you, John?
Yeah, well, here's a curveball, because I said, I don't know, a couple episodes ago, fuck it at this point, that my new video about Neutral Milk Hotel would be up. And guess what? I switched it last second. It's a video about something else. I'm not even going to tell you what it's about, Noah. I've told you about it before.
Is it about music?
No, it's not about music. You know what? I decided to make
Well,
money
then I'm
for
not
once in
gonna
my
watch
goddamn life. It's about real music, man. Only Mozart for me. Fuck, that was pop though. Shit. There's no getting
Mozart
away
isn't
from
even
it.
the best classical pull.
Jimi Hendrix. Wait, fuck, he charted. Shit, no, nothing. Oh, people are idiots. So yeah, go check out whatever that video is about. I'm sure it'll be cool. And this is a bad plug if I'm refusing to say what I'm plugging. And please go answer the question of the week. I always enjoy reading those. And yeah, thank you to Fiona Staples, Brian K. Vaughan, Phonographics and Image Comics for making... Wait a second. Do you hear that, Noah?
What?
Is that distantly? There's some kind of music playing. What's the... Hold on. It's the question of the week theme. Oh shit, a surprise question. What does the purple voice sound like? Oh my gosh. I guess we have to fucking do it. Okay, go ahead and answer that. Am I shitting? Bye.
That's 4 questions. That's 4 questions. Are you shitting me?
Hey, bye.